So my name is Troy Lamel. I am the Chief Operating Officer at the University of the District of Columbia. I want to thank you all for being here on this evening. So a very important conversation to talk about the campus, all of our campuses. This is not just about Van Ness, and we'll talk more about that, but to continue conversations with our neighbors on the future of Van Ness, and obviously some other things that we know are important to the community. We have a lot of people still coming in. I thought we were going to have a smaller crowd, more than I thought, because it's not just myself. There are a number of UDC officials on here as well. Let me do a couple of housekeeping rules, if I may. So as I just said, if everyone could please mute the line. I think everyone's coming in mute. I think I muted everyone. If you need to speak, please, if you know how to do the raise your hand function. Myself and Juanita Gray are kind of monitoring that. You can also send in chat. You can chat in and get myself and Juanita Gray. We'll be trying to monitor that and make sure we get everybody's comments in. So with that, I am going to share my screen here. There we go. And I'm going to first of all go over the agenda. Hopefully you can see that. So again, the goal, as I just stated, the goal is to provide clarity on our planning efforts. We're going to talk about retail. We're not shying away. We're going to have this retail conversation, even in the light of COVID. We're going to have a retail conversation. But one of the things technically we have to do, we've got to get some feedback on the plans for Van Ness. So on the call tonight, as I mentioned, a number of individuals from the UDC administration, including our general counsel, Avis Russell, who is helping to lead our campus master planning efforts. Now, distinguish those. I'll be more clear on that in just a few moments, but we also have some consultants who are helping us and advisors who are helping us in the submissions process to the district. Most of you know that all universities have to submit a campus master plan as a process. So the agenda, so that's what we're trying to get done tonight. Again, I need to everyone, I'm gonna try to mute you again. I'll do that here in a second. We need everybody to please mute. You still hear a lot of background noise. For those that just recently joined, you can mute yourself. We'd appreciate it. I think all of us would appreciate it. Thank you. So again, I'm not going to go through everybody's introductions, but again, introduce myself and let you know that there are a number of UDC administrators on this call, including members from our what we call CARES, which is our Capital Assets and Real Estate Services team, led by now our Vice President Alex Garrett. We have members of our, as I mentioned, General Counsel's office, led by Ms. Avis Russell. We have our external relations team. I think many of you know Ms. Juanita Gray and the role that she plays. We also have Mr. Baker, who's also with the General Counsel's office on this line as well. So I'm going to talk a little bit about the differences between the institutional plan and the campus plan. And I'll walk through and actually going to show you a couple of that, a couple of pictures with that. And then I'm going to talk about the Avenue and the retail spaces. We'll have the conversation about where we are in the process and obviously getting input from the community. And then we'll talk about the actual campus master plan for Van Ness, give you an idea of what's happening, what our plans are for the next 10 years, or our thoughts are for the next 10 years, and get your feedback from that. And that is a vital part of this process. So with that, again, I'm going to ask everyone, please mute your lines. If you have a question, please raise your hand. Juanita, I can't see because the way I've got my screen set up, I can't see any hand raises. So if you would just jump in, Juanita, if someone raises their hand or has a comment, and just stop me. This is meant to be. I know it's not always easy to do this in this format, but we will try to make sure we get everyone's input. And so, stop me, Juanita, if someone has a question. Okay.
Will do. It doesn't look like there's a hand raise. So if you have a question, please just make a comment and I'll look at the comments and call on you.
There you go. All right. So let's start with, if you will, kind of a definitional section. And I think many of you know, as the University of the District of Columbia, we have a number of sites, not only in the District of Columbia itself, but we also have a farm in Maryland and we have a hangar in Virginia. And so as we go through this, we need to develop for the next 10 years an institutional plan of what we want to do across all of our sites, and that includes the community here in Van Ness, and a few other sites I'll talk about here in a second, as well as some food hubs that we have across the district. And then, again, as I said, those sites in Maryland and Virginia. And so that's what we do. And there's no legal requirement for that, but that's just good planning so that we understand how these campuses programmatically fit together, particularly around as we think about transportation, moving our students and our faculty and staff across those, and how they fit together and how we make sure we're maximizing the utilization of these facilities. And so that's what we're doing. And so within that institutional plan that we're doing, there is this campus master plan that is just for Van Ness and just for a part of the buildings there at the Van Ness community, which again, we'll have more details on. And so I want to make sure you all understand that in this larger institutional plan is within this campus master plan. And so within the campus master plan, whereas we get input from each of the community here at Van Ness, but as we think about what we're doing at a Bacchus, or as we're doing particularly at Bacchus or at Old Congress Heights, and I'll explain those in a second, we want to, and Juanita has been very involved, in allowing, whoever, Sabrina, if you want to annotate, you can annotate, that's fine. Very involved in engaging the community. And so we are involved in the community, obviously, in this Van Ness, but as we talk about Bacchus, again, it's not a formal part of the process, but obviously we want to be good institution. We want to be good neighbors. So as we begin our conversation about our plans for Bacchus or our plans for Oak Congress Heights, we will be involving those specific communities in those conversations as well. And so where we are right now is we have had conversations in our community. We have had conversations with our board, with our cabinet, and with our board on what I'm about to show you. And so where we are right now is we need to get input from the community in terms of what we plan on doing with the campus master plan at Van Ness. And that's part of the process in terms of what we have to submit to the zoning here. The plan is in November, we will be submitting to our board for their approval. And so there will be another conversation with this community. So after we get your input, there's work that we have to do to actually prepare the plan. And in preparing that plan, we'll be representing. We don't have a date yet for that to the community, and then the board also approves it, and then it's submitted to the zoning commission. Is there a question? Again, if someone can, a couple of people's lines come in, they're not muted. Wendy and Kay, if you can mute your line.
Yeah, if everyone can please stay muted. If you have a question, go into the message part and just write, I have a question, and I'll call on you during that time. Otherwise, if everyone can please stay on mute. Thank you.
I think I just, oh, sorry. Sorry, Winnie, I just muted you too. I just muted it. Sorry about that. So, okay, thank you. So with that, I just want to show you some very quick pictures. So let me do this. Nope, it's not. Oh, because I got you annotated. Let me take the annotation off. Whoever's annotating needs to take you off. Stop. Oops, I didn't want to do that. Don't want to do that. Hit the wrong button. Sorry about that, folks. All right. I want to take you over here. So this gives you some idea. Again, this isn't meant to be definitive or actual. This is just a rendering. If you don't know, we have a 150-acre farm in Beltsville, Maryland. And we also, in addition to the Beltsville, we also have a number of food hubs. Many of you know about the one there at Van Ness. We also have one at PR Harris and at Bacchus and at one other school and one at East Capitol. And so these are all part of our efforts to drive urban sustainability and also urban agricultural principles into the district. So this gives you an idea of some of the thoughts that we're having to create a conferencing, a research center at 150 acres in Beltsville. This is a rendering of our Bacchus campus, which is across the street from the Fort Totten Metro Station. Currently, it really only has this older part, this kind of L-shaped part of the building here. Excuse me, this L-shaped part of the building is really only that's in place. This part of the building is in place, but it's not utilized. We're trying to build out this piece. We're still waiting on funding from the district in order to do that. And once we do this, our goal is to move out of our current 801 North Capitol site, which is near Union Station, And this site would become the home of our associate degree programs and a large number of our workforce programs here at the Ernie Backus site. The next and last site that I want to show you is this is called Old Congress Heights, which is off of Martin Luther King. It's near the St. Elizabeth complex. So where we have here is a big chunk, another big chunk of our workforce programs. This particular rendering is showing an automotive program that we're still trying to go through and how to launch. So give you some idea of what we're thinking about here. But again, this actual building, as far as our opening plans for the fall, is also going to be where we have our fall opening. We're going to be using this building as well as some facilities at Van Ness. And so that then leads to the second agenda item. And I'm going to stop there and just see if there's a question before I move to Van Ness. So that's what we're trying to do away from Van Ness. So that's the part of the institutional plan that we're trying to do. Now, as we think about Van Ness, this gives you these next few pictures give you some ideas of how we're thinking about the activation of the retail and the activation of the buildings that we have along Van Ness. So this is meant to show you a look, obviously looking down Van Ness. The building you see here is 4225, also known as Building 70. Our current plans are to do a media center in this building, probably a welcome center, and potentially some retail here on the first level here of 42, also known as Building 70. Again, could someone go, Tillman, if you could go to mute, please. This is obviously the Student Center, which is across the street from that. So if I go to this next slide, this shows you 4250, also known as safety internally. And so this shows you, again, some activation of retail that we do plan on, we're looking at doing here along 4225. I mean, excuse me, it's looking for 4250. And then, I'll come back to that. And so let's talk about retail.
Troy, really quickly, we have a question about, we have three here. The first one is Congress Heights site the old DCPS site? I thought that was landmarked. That's the first question.
It's not a DCPS. It was used for charter schools. It was an old. It's an historic building, and it might have been an old DCPS building. So I may not know, but we got it. It was being used for charter schools, and the owner had done some renovations to it, and actually added a second section to it. So it's a historic building, had a second section added into it, and they had, I think, 2 or 3 charters had gone through there before we decided to take on leading. We're leasing the building, by the way. We don't own the building, we're leasing the building.
Okay, the second question, these are, well, maybe you should continue because these questions may be answered in the part that you're about to start with.
That's fine. I'll do that and we can come back to it if I don't answer them. So thank you for the question. And so retail. So let me start and end with this statement. We are, even through this COVID situation, we are committed to activating the retail along Connecticut Avenue. We've not wavered in that. We're not shying away from that, and we are still committed to making that happen. We have engaged KLMB, and if I sometimes slip and say KPMG, excuse me, it is just a sense of too many acronyms, too many organizations I've worked with, starting with K and 4 letters. So it is KLMB that we have engaged to help us with our retail efforts. They have, through their efforts, have actually identified, and we've been approached by a number of very high quality potential tenants. We've signed some agreements that don't allow us to disclose the names, but I can commit to you and tell you that they are highly recognizable names, both many of them nationally and some regionally, across a number of different retail sectors. And so and these aren't just kind of look-bys. These are individuals who have actually asked for blueprints of the building, looking at, we've even talked about certain economics with these individuals and how they could fit into a certain number of our buildings, particularly 4250, how different changes could be made to the building. So, and this has happened pre-COVID, and it's happened even since COVID has happened. And there's been even a higher level, even greater intensity with that. And so we're still in the middle of that. We know we have the MOU that we have with the Van Ness Main Street and with the ANC in terms of a clock. I talked to the Van Ness Main Street Board, I think Juanita, about 2 weeks ago, maybe two or 3 weeks ago, and told them the same, same update. And that what we would like to do is touch base in probably a December, January timeframe to look at where we are with the clock that's in that MOU to see if any adjustments need to be made. We're not asking for any adjustments at this time. We think right now we're pretty close to maybe fulfilling those requirements in the MOU. But this COVID thing is a moving target, and so we want to kind of do that. As far as the role of the community, it continues to be as we are able and can talk through specifics. We clearly will get that input. We have had conversations with Gloria from Van Ness Main Street, so she has been briefed on what's going on with KLNB. KLNB is more than happy to come talk to any community gathering or to the Van Ness Main Street community about where they are in the process in terms of obtaining retail tenants for these buildings. Our focus right now is 4250. We are looking at pop-ups. We have had the conversation with Gloria about pop-ups. More than happy, and I've committed to making pop-ups happen that makes sense. More than happy to make that space available where it makes sense. We will make pop-ups happen as well. But I think COVID has just changed the logic of that for potential pop-up place. So let me stop there, Juanita, and see if I've answered any questions, addressed any of the questions, or if there's any other questions or conversations on this point.
You did. The next question is about the former Walgreens. Has UDC contemplated more intensive uses for the former Walgreens? It seems like a missed opportunity to only have it remain a two-story building as indicated in the rendering.
Yeah, no, great question. Thank you for that. So let me be a little bit more detailed there. So the second floor of what we call Building 70 or 4225, the former Walgreens building, will be what we're calling a media center. So it's going to be a combination of our TV station currently, which is in Building 41, as well as a number of our other digital media and social media assets, as well as other types of academic spaces as well, be on the second floor. The first floor, still kind of in a TBD stage, but I definitely think there's a potential for some retail, and particularly looking at maybe you moving our current art studio that we have, which is kind of hidden in a building, and moving that into 4225 and creating kind of a coffee shop, art retail type of thing is one of the ideas we're playing with. But again, we're also thinking about maybe making it a welcome center. Many universities now are moving to welcome centers more on the edge of their campuses so that people don't have to navigate a campus to start doing tours. So it definitely will be kind of a front end of the campus where we can demonstrate things and be more of a welcoming opportunity, but also looking at some retail opportunities as well that will serve the campus and the community.
Okay, we have a few more questions.
Sure.
Let's see. Can you share the kind of retail businesses that are interested in those spaces?
I cannot, other than to tell you that they are retailers of national prominence and in many cases regional prominence.
How will these retail outlets handle this shortage of parking that we already have? And then he added to that question, as well as any plan to create any residential spaces.
No plans for residential. Well, let me back up on that. So I don't know what he meant by that question. So we'll talk about campus residential spaces in a couple of minutes, but in 4250, no. And as far as parking, the commitment that we do have with part of the MOU that we have with the community with Van Ness Main Street is that we are dedicating some of the parking to in 4250 to retail.
Okay. Could you keep the retail/digital media program at 4225 and add residential above it?
Ask that question. Could you cut a little bit there when you say that again, please?
Could you keep the retail/digital media program at 4225 and add residential above it?
That's a great, we about a year, maybe 2 years ago with the owners, again, we do not own, I want to be really clear here. We do not own 4225. We do not own we're leasing that building. We're in a 15-year lease on 4225. That said, we have a great relationship with the owner. And actually I have some drawings on my desk that he had given to us about using, I don't know how many you've seen where they can use containers, shipping containers, and the people now using shipping containers to turn those into, kind of small apartments. And so he had some renderings that would have stacked that, there. And we were, frankly, we were supportive of that. But I think it just came down to his financing and not being able to pull that off. But if that comes back again, I could say that would be something the university would definitely be interested in pursuing.
Okay. What are the retail plans, if any, for the student center spaces?
Yeah, we're no specific because we're trying to. We think the focus, and Kaylin B can say this far better than I can, is that I think we're trying to land the anchor, and we think because of the space that these anchors are looking at 4250, they would drive then the type of retail that would be attracted to whether it's in the law school building or one space in the student center. So the focus right now is trying to land that anchor, maybe some I'll call sub anchors, and that's what we're focusing right now. And then that will then dictate what other types of opportunities we can might come to play.
Okay. 2 questions about the Arts Center you mentioned. If Art Center, would UDC sponsor community art shows like Chevy Chase Community Center used to do? And then would you give classes to community in Art Center?
Absolutely. Absolutely. Look, I should have said this at the beginning. For us to do retail, I think I've said this at a couple of meetings. For us to do retail, it makes no sense for us to do retail that's only focused on the university. And it makes no sense to do retail that's only focused on neighbors. I think there is a great synergy that can happen when we think through this retail that can serve both of us. And by the way, the other community we want to think about is all those embassies that are sitting back off of Van Ness. How do we draw them down and bring them down to Connecticut Avenue? It's the thing that we're also thinking about.
Okay. Looks like we have some students online as well. So there's two questions from student. Will parking be free this semester? And can we prioritize students to be hired at these retail spaces?
I'm gonna take the second one. So one of the main reasons we're doing this is if you look at the role that a vibrant Connecticut Avenue will do, it does a number of things. Yes, it activates, it creates community engagement, but it also creates learning opportunities, job opportunities for our students. And I get excited about the idea of a student, being able to sit down. Again, this is kind of in hopefully a COVID state that we all can gather again. Post-COVID, we can all gather again, where a student, can sit down and have a cup of coffee along the Connecticut Avenue and talk to a Merlin Berlin and have that type of conversation. Where they can be engaged, and our students are an engaged part of the conversation and learning because they're sitting there talking to many of you that are on this call right now. But also, to your point, to the question, it creates a learning opportunity. Many of our students need those types of jobs, and it also, frankly, it creates a stickiness to the campus, the word that I like to use, because many of our students, have a morning class and then they have to leave campus. They have an evening class, but they really can't come back because their job is somewhere else, another part of the city. They can't afford to come back. I'm hoping that creating this retail, one of the many benefits of this retail, creates those jobs that the students can take those classes in the mornings, work midday or the afternoon, and still get that evening class, and then go home. And hopefully we'll have some housing here we'll talk about in a second. So absolutely, I think this is a benefit to our students to create not only those learning outside classroom opportunities to engage the community there at Van Ness and have those various events that the previous question mentioned, but also create those learning and job opportunities. So thank you for that question.
Okay, I think you get
parking. I think that's a separate point off of this. I think that's a fall. I mean, we have a conversation about the fall opening. I think the real quick answer, whoever that is can send me something offline. With parking, no, will not be free. Somebody say that up front. But we are we're working through a couple of models because you don't have to come to campus every day, and we're trying to minimize who comes to campus in the fall, which really is going to only limit the people who need to come to campus, who need to come to campus.
Okay, I think you can continue with the presentation. We don't have any more questions right now.
Okay, outstanding. So let me close on this number 3, the retail space. And I appreciate the fact that you all are on this call tonight. I appreciate the energy that you all are showing us. I know and I'll just, this is, if we're going to be honest, and I wish I could see more of you, actually, I know there's a frustration that this thing has to move faster. And there's a frustration on our part too, because look, I'll be transparent with you. There's revenue from this that we actually, frankly, need at some point to help us support being in 4250 and having 4225. And so just as much as you want the retail to activate and have that vibrant community, we wanted to, for all the student success reasons that I just talked about, but frankly, we for economic reasons. So there is a joint effort here. I think we have a joint agenda in terms of making this happen and making it happen as fast as possible. COVID happened. We have to accept the COVID reality that is there. But I've gotten confidence from KLNB because I asked this exact question around COVID, that how would it impact and how will it drive us? And they were actually fairly bullish. They were very bullish, and they have a far better lens on this than I ever will in terms of looking at, because they, you see their signs all over the DMV community. They have a very clear view of what's happening in the retail space and what's bad and good. And they were pretty honest. They were honest about where they do see some weaknesses in certain areas of the district and in certain types of retail. But they felt like, given where we are in Van Ness, and frankly, to I think all of you would agree, the lack of retail and the type of community that you all represent, that there is great opportunity to bring some retail to Connecticut Avenue and activating that. So with that, I want to move to kind of the technical reason of why we're here tonight, and or the technical reason why we're here tonight, and that's this here. So as you all can see, this is the Van Ness campus. This is Connecticut Avenue. This is Van Ness. This red dotted line that you see is what we have to submit. I call it the red box or the red dash line. The red dash line is what is the plan that we have to submit to the district. That we will, again, as I said, the process is we will come back to you all showing you this, pretty much what I'm saying, about to say it to you in a few minutes. We'll bring this back to you all. We will then have our board approve and then do submission. You will see, obviously, that 4225, 4250, and building 52 are not in that. The challenge is this zoning that we have. If we add these buildings to this zoning, we could not do retail in these buildings. I just want to be clear on that. If we were to change and make this dotted line include these three buildings, we would not be able to do. We would not be able to do commercial retail in those buildings. Okay. And so I want to make it clear, we're not trying to hide this. We want to make sure it's as transparent as we can, and we're going to make the retail part as transparent as we can, but it's not part of the campus master planning effort. They are, again, as I tried to say at the beginning, there are three things happening here. There's the institutional plan, which we're doing. Within that institution plan is this campus master plan, and then we obviously have this retail piece that we're doing. And I just gave you the update on this retail piece. So if you give me a little bit, I want to walk you through our plans for this. I'm going to walk you through all of these buildings, regardless of whether they sit inside the red line. I'm going to give you some idea of where we're going with these buildings. So I'm going to try to do it in numerical order, and then I'm going to deal with the non-numerical areas. So this building here is really two buildings, but it's technically, it's from a building management point of view, one building, building 32 and 42, because it has a common roof and a lot of other common systems. This currently is a combination of our technology, our STEM area, as well as our architecture and a few other labs. Our goal over time is to turn this building, particularly given COVID, into a classroom lab space and take the offices out, and I'll explain to you where the faculty office will go, so just kind of trust me here in a minute. And they would move out, and this building would become the home of most of our academic offerings, as well as our labs and advanced labs, and our research would be in this building.
Excuse me, Troy.
Yes.
It's hard to see the pointer, so can you say the buildings as you're pointing to them, please? Yep.
See if I can get it. Yep. So 3242 is what I was just talking about. Okay. I'm going to now go over here to building 38, which is currently our School of Business and Public Administration for most of the building, but also in this building, we have our student development and success operations. Again, the thinking here academically is we're going to turn, just like 3242, 38 will become primarily classrooms on the levels 1, 2, and 3. Level A will maintain what we call our student development and success, because that level A goes over here to building 39. And so that all that level A allows our students to get registered, pay their bills, as well as get advised. And so that creates a nice seamless pathway for our students. But the rest of the floors in building 38, the first, second, and third floor, will become classroom spaces and computing lab spaces. The B level of building 38 and 39, again, is another common level, and that will become our library. We actually just finished up some design work with Mr. Garrett and our chief academic officer this past week, and probably the early part of 2021 will in earnest begin redesigning what we're calling a digital learning commons space as opposed to a library. The library of the future is really going to be different. It's not just going to be books and stacks. It's going to be places where people obviously can congregate safely, but also in places where we can create digital content that we are broadcasting and leveraging to our students. Building 39 is our administration building on the first, second, and third floor. That will be maintained. And I already spoke to what's going to happen on levels A and B. The C level across these buildings is primarily a support level that we have, and that won't fundamentally change. Building 41. Many of you are probably aware that the district has in their budget right now, the mayor has in the budget that was just approved a few days ago, that this footprint, I'm using that word footprint, and I'll explain that, will become the district archives probably in the fiscal 25 or 26 timeframe if you look at the current budget that was just approved by the council. The plan right now is that they would actually knock this building down and then take the footprint of this building and build the new district archives here. What is in the building that we are still trying to work with the district, somebody needs to mute their line, please, is the jazz archives. We still do not have exact plans of where the jazz archives will land. We are trying to put the jazz archives back with the district archives because we think it just makes sense for the district archives to also have the jazz archives, but that is not definitive yet. And so where the jazz archives lands long term is still a moving target as of this moment.
Excuse me, Troy, really quickly. People are saying that the screen is small. They want to know if you can enlarge the picture. And also, if you're using a device that in like your phone or a tablet, you can double click on it and it'll expand the picture on your device.
Is that a little bit better? What do you think?
Yeah, I can see it perfectly.
We can make it bigger. Okay. All right. It's slow because yeah, it's gonna be slow.
Then also, if people are having trouble, make sure your screen is full screen, and that way you'll see it better as well.
Thank you, Juanita. So I'm gonna move, if I can, to building 43. Most of you never probably knew about building 43. Building 43 because it's our power plant building. And so the way we provide heating and cooling in our buildings, there's a piping system that goes underneath all of our buildings. And that boiler system is here in building 43. It's literally an antiquated boiler system. The pipes are falling apart on us. And so our larger plan is that each building, we will build a separate HVAC system for each building and abandon that piping system, eventually then no longer needing building 43 and opening up about 100,000 square feet of space for academic and student support opportunities in the future. So we're excited about, and we do have some money to begin this process of starting to convert some of our buildings and doing some of the HVAC conversion work. We don't have all the money. So this is definitely in the 10-year horizon of happening. I think the one that was alluded to a few moments ago is building 44. You can tell it's here on Van Ness Street on the edge of the campus. As I mentioned, this building is the home of our causes, our College of Agriculture, Urban Sustainability, and Environmental Sciences. As I mentioned a few moments ago, we're trying to move all of our lab capacity into building 3242 and our classroom capacity into 3242 and 38. Once we do that, this frees up this building, and the thinking for this building is this becomes the home, because it's a perfect rectangle, the home for our first on-campus residential facility. And so we get excited about that, and we think we can get some public-private partnerships, some private monies with some district money to help build not just a residence hall that you're used to, but one that really accommodates the needs of our students that we have, because we know many of our students, there's economic reasons and there's a number of reasons that they need housing. So we want to think a little differently as we think through the possibilities, and we want to be very creative with what 44 could become. The other function that's in this building that we do have to move, and we think we have a place for it, the university on the second floor of this building is the home of the backup morgue for the district, and that is here. It's a working morgue. Morgues go, it's pretty nice. We think the better place for it actually is over here in 3242, and the reason for that is this building here, 42, is right off the loading dock. So if there was a mass casualty issue in the district, they would pull up here to the loading dock and be able to quickly get to the morgue, this new morgue that we're thinking about moving out of 44 and into this renovated building 3242. Okay. Let me move up the campus here. And let's talk about the theater, 46E. And so this is one of the, I will admit, this is one of the jewels in the amphitheater. Is probably the other one that really has opportunity to be leveraged by the community, and we haven't done as good a job as we could with this and the amphitheater, and we'll talk about the amphitheater as well. There's work that needs to be done. We just recently completed a lighting project there in the amphitheater, but it needs some work with its AV systems overall, with the stage itself, with the black room, the green rooms to the green room, and a few other things. And we think there's anywhere from $3 to $4 to $5 million of work. We've had discussions with Van Ness Main Street about a partnering opportunity where we jointly kind of raise this money and jointly book the space. And I think that's a great idea, and I'm still supportive of that and like to see that happen. Its adjoining building here, 46W, is our performing arts building. And this, of all of our buildings here at the Van Ness campus, is probably is one of the ones that's probably not in the best shape, to be just blunt about it. It's not in really good shape at all. And we think over time this probably needs to be decommissioned, or it's got to be completely torn down. It's just the renovations probably won't work. But it's a great building. It's our performing arts building. So there's a number of rooms in here for students to do their individual performances but it's really not in good shape. And so Dr. Potter, who's our chief academic officer, and I have got to think through how do we make sure we support these programs in a much better space than what they're in right now. So that's right now we're showing that to be decommissioned, demolished as part of the 10-year campus plan. Okay. Up here, building 47 is the gym. So we just put in a new floor. If you've not seen our new floor and our new stands, I would ask you to go and look at it. It looked great, and we appreciate the district providing us the funds to do that. We've kind of patched up the roof as well. We've got a little bit bigger roof work to do. Let me actually pause and say one point, because it reminded me 47. We're working with the district to fix all of our roofs. And as part of the district is trying to move, the mayor's trying to move it to be a resilient city. And as part of that, they're trying to leverage all the roofs that they have to create solar roofs on all of their buildings that they control. And we're doing the same thing here. So we're in the process of talking to some folks about fixing our roofs. We're in the process of fixing a number of our roofs here at Van Ness. But the next stage of that is then to produce solar, to put solar, not only to obviously save on our electrical bill, but to use some of the savings to fund student scholarships, but also to help. I think there is a fund in the district to help residents who that have challenges paying their light bill. So we're excited about over definitely the next 10 years, not just fixing these roofs, but actually having them solar. And by the way, I should have said this when I was talking about the farm. At the farm, they're doing an experiment where we can get what's called triple netting, the ability to position the solar panels so that not only we capture the sun, but we capture the rainwater, but also grow crops in and around these solar panels. And they're doing that experiment so that we can actually do a fairly large solar farm at the farm, but also that we can position many of these roofs very much like Building 44 currently is, which is a green roof, so that we can maintain vegetation, capture the solar, but also capture the rainwater. So we're excited about that possibility. I'm going to go here to, so that's the core Van Ness campuses, or the red line camp. I want to go over here. We've already talked about 4225. I want to talk about 4250 in a little bit more detail. I kept mentioning the fact that we were going to move the classrooms out of building 3240, I'm out of building 3242 and building 38. What we want to create in building 4250 or building 70, all of our academic all of our academic offices, all of our faculty would move here. And this is probably one of the most exciting things for a university to think about. As many of you know, most universities are built around colleges, and those colleges, like we are, have a specific building. And so those faculty are all in one building. We really are trying to build a university where our faculty are thinking more about the interdisciplinary nature of what they do and how they teach our students and how they think about their own scholarly products. And so by putting them all together under one roof, we think we can create a very different type of faculty. And so that's what 4250 would become. It's the home of all of our faculty offices. And we've kind of mapped it out, and we feel pretty good that we will be able to fit most of our faculty offices into 4250 or building 70. I'll just go to the law school. No big changes to the law school. It's going to stay the law school building, building 52. Again, we'll get retail, we'll activate the retail in it, but no significant changes. So let me go to the non-building areas. Let me start with the tennis courts. We're fixing the tennis courts. I know many of you are happy to hear that. We will be opening them up again for community use as soon as we get them fixed. You did not want to be on them. They were trip hazards waiting to happen. So we're fixing them, and they will be fixed up here shortly. But one of the ideas that we have is to put a roof over them and make them indoor tennis courts, and then on top of them probably try to build some housing that would again be over the tennis courts, maybe come over here to this area over here by the amphitheater, maybe even take some of the airspace over here going towards Connecticut Avenue. But again, we haven't designed anything here, but it's part of the thinking that we have to create this over a potential 10-year time frame. I've already mentioned the amphitheater, and I've talked to, again, Dr. Potter and Dr. William Latham, who runs our student development success, and I've talked to Van Ness Main Street as well. We just need to act. We are committed to cleaning up the amphitheater, providing electricity there at the amphitheater, and I've asked Juanita to work with Van Ness Main Street and the ANC to book events there at the amphitheater. We need to use the amphitheater. It is highly underused, highly underleveraged. We're going to clean it up. We're going to make it more inviting, but we're also going to start activating it and using it. So I guess I'm announcing that and making sure that you all hear that and give us ideas of how to use it and how to do different things with it. But we need to do something different and actually use the amphitheater. We actually, even during our opening, if weather permits, we've talked to the academic folks about using the space for some classes, again, weather permitting. I want to move to our green space here. On the edge of campus. I think many of you know we have Eaton here. They will be leaving in about a year. And again, what's going to happen with the whole COVID and how they're going to use them, I don't know. I know obviously they're going to start virtual, but how that's going to play out with these, I do not know that. They are scheduled to be there though for the rest of this year. We do have plans though to make this what I call the upper field here, just below 47. Into a turf soccer field, and as part of that plan, we plan on going ahead and putting in the full, making it with the lighting and the other concessions that we were planning on doing with the Field LLC team. And then once these folks are gone, once the trailers are gone, or the learning cottages, I think they're called, are gone, we will then turn this into a turf field as well again. And we'll be working with the Field LLC and the other community groups to schedule time on those fields that when our athletes or our students are not using those fields. The last thing I'll talk about is the Narc Plaza. I'm gonna bring it up because we know we need some work to do on this. Many of the pavers need to be refurbished. There's some other challenges here from some other things we're working on, but we're gonna beautify this and work on some of our landscaping as well. And again, that's part of the work that the consultants that you have online here that are listening to this, they're thinking through some of the edge of the campus, how we make sure we make it a softer edge in terms of some of the landscaping that we do, And so they're helping us think through that and also how we do it within the interior of the campus as well. So that's my presentation. That's what I got. So I am open now for conversations, and obviously, if the consultants have anything they need to add or ask, this is that time, or GC Russell, if there's anything that I've missed that you need to chime in on. So now it's kind of an open Q&A time on anything that we talked about tonight.
We have some questions in a queue. We do want to give people the opportunity to speak for themselves. So if you have a question, just write Q in a message. You don't have to write out the whole question. Just write Q and I'll answer, or we'll call on you. But I'm going to go back up to some questions. They're kind of mixed between the retail and the campus.
Fine.
All right. Let's see. So Marianne Miller wants to know, is there any time frame that will be associated with 4225 Connecticut? I've heard numerous plans for this site. Is there funding in the 2021 budget as proposed, or proposed planned budget for 2022?
So again, so the second floor, we have funding to do the media center. And that's all we have monies to do is that second floor. We do not have monies to do anything else in 4225 at this time.
Okay. What will happen to the upper floors of 4250?
Again, the whole building the plan right now is the entire building will be for our faculty, will be faculty offices. Other than retail, I mean, the retail spaces won't be, but the building, the office spaces will be for our faculty offices. And there's a few other support offices as well, but the dominant part of it will be for faculty offices.
How many students will the residence hall house?
We don't know. We don't know. And I'm not avoiding the question. I really don't know because we haven't designed it yet. I think our current, and GC Russell can correct me, or Ms. Wright can correct me, I think our current master plan allows us to have up to 600 students on the campus. We won't put that many in this 44 thing, I can promise you that. And even over there at the tennis court site. And so I don't think either of those sites will get us up to 600.
Stan Wall would like to know, beyond this first residential student building, does UDC have long-term goal for its resident student population?
Well, other than the two that I just mentioned, no. Thank you for the question. Building 44 and the tennis court site are the two primary, 44 being the most, I think the most available of the two areas that we're thinking about for residential. Now, that's here at Van Ness, Stan. I didn't mention this, but they're trying to think through the design over at Bacchus. And so part of that design at Bacchus might include housing, both market rate and student housing at Bacchus, but that hasn't been determined yet because we don't have the funding. We don't have the funding for Bacchus yet.
Okay. Stan would also like to know, has UDC contemplated partnerships with other DC arts cultural institutions to further activate the theater, amphitheater, and other venues on campus?
Yeah, we have, Stan. I think, Stan, if you know, when the Kennedy Center was not was under construction, we had a number of their smaller events were at the theater, and we continue to talk to them about that, as well as looking at other. So again, yes, we have had those conversations, and we're actually activating an event management team that's going to be much more active in terms of looking at those types of partnerships. So yes, so if any that you have, send them our way.
Okay, Commissioner Christille, if you'd like to take yourself off of mute and ask your questions.
Sure, thanks for having us. It's great you're doing this event tonight. Actually got two questions. One is a follow-up, and I meant to have my, having your buildings mixed up. The 4225, that sounds like that's a two-story option, period, because you're leasing the space.
David, you were breaking up just a little bit. Can you just repeat that for me?
Sure. I thought what I heard was that the reason for not considering floors above 2 at 4225 was because leasing that space. Is that correct?
Well, no. I mean, it's not our building. So let me be clear. It's not our building. And so if we're gonna, we'd have to get the owner to agree, or get the owner to finance or agree to any type of housing option there. And he came to us about a housing option there. That was about 2 years ago. And he decided for whatever reason not to pursue it. And we haven't had the financing to be able to pursue it either. But I think he's genuinely interested in looking at that option, but it's not something that we talked about in the last, let's say, 2 years.
Okay, so it sounds like that could be back on the table if there were financing options.
I think that's a fair enough statement.
That's great. And the second question is really you've got 17 embassies to the west of you, and I'm wondering if that's ever an option, if that's ever been on the table to talk to the embassies about, there's all sorts of, could be some interesting things if the embassies were interested in either academically or programmatically, the amphitheater. It just seems like a resource that could be tapped if it's been asked.
Absolutely. So I think one of the ideas I've even had to your point, to your question is, putting street signs, doing some street sign, talking about doing street signs that would be in the different languages of the embassies that are behind us. And so, but yes, and we do have some programmatic efforts with some of the embassies, not all of them. Actually, Ms. Gray has been very instrumental in the Passport DC that happens during the year. And so we open up the campus to Passport DC, and we've actually become much more engaged with the embassies through Passport DC.
Thank you.
All right, next we're going to go to Margaret O'Gorman. Margaret, if you would like to unmute yourself and ask your questions. She might be having difficulties. I'll just read it. Given UDC's causes program, how will urban environmental sustainability be integrated into the campus plan?
Oh, thank you for that question. And I actually will, this is what some of the consultants might want to come in. I think it's a huge part. I mean, we're not moving away from that. As I mentioned, we're looking at how do we make our edges cleaner, thinking through everything from stormwater runoff and thinking about the vegetation that we plant, even the types of construction that we do. Mr. Gary can tell you all of our construction is going to be going forward is going to be minimum a lead, I think it's lead silver. I could be wrong on that, but I could be wrong on that. But I know it's one of the lead designations. All of our featured. Say it again.
Lead silver.
Lead silver. Thank you. Yeah, lead silver. And so, absolutely. And we've looked at opportunities where we can even engage our students in some of the designs of these of our spaces and our places. And so, we want to make sure that we aren't just academically talking about how to do environmental sciences, but how do we ourselves show it? I think most of you know that our student center is a LEED Platinum. It's one of the few LEED Platinum student centers in the country. And so we're very proud of that and maintaining that designation. So we plan on continuing that, what we started with the student center, and continue that with everything that we do on the campus.
All right, Commissioner Keebler, you're up next. Commissioner?
Yeah, I had to unmute. This is Commissioner Keebler from SMD 02, right across the way from UDC's SMD of 01. Hi, David Cristiel, Commissioner Cristiel. I wanted to circle back about the discussion you were having about possibly adding a third floor to 4225. That's the first that I'm hearing of this. I'm sure a lot of other things have been bandied about with respect to that particular building. But
I wouldn't call it.
All the discussion, hold on. In all the discussions about the DC, you hear me okay?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. In all the discussions about the DC comp plan and the revisions to that, I don't think it's in the cards right now to add any density to that little strip, as far as I know.
Yeah, so I want to be really, really clear. So it was an idea that the owner came to us and asked us would we be interested, and he gave us some drawing. And I want to say it's been a year and a half, 2 years ago. And I said, yeah, it'd be kind of cool. And it wasn't really adding a third floor. It was kind of lining the edge of the building with these containers. And I don't think it went any further than were we interested, and that was about it. It didn't go past that. And we said we were, and we never heard back.
Yeah, not that I'm opposed necessarily to that densification, because it's something that the Housing and Neighborhoods Committee has been bandying about a little bit to try to, in their review of the DC comp plan and how it affects the ANC.
Yep.
But I think it's a very large discussion right now because it's not in the comp plan right now.
That's fair. I think that's extremely fair. And so I think, we're not, I'm telling you what I don't think I would not put it as something that's going to happen anytime in the near future. Let me put it that way.
Yeah, it's just like we should focus on the things that we know we can control.
There you
This,
go.
I think we're kind of even mentioning it at this point as a possibility is, I just reiterate that it was something that was just kicked around as an idea and it didn't go any further.
It was just an idea. That's exactly right.
Okay, let's focus on West Main Street. All right, thanks. I'm putting myself back on mute.
Okay. The next person is Alex Apa. Alex, you can unmute yourself.
Yes, hi. Good evening, everybody. Thanks for the presentation. I just had a question around with the addition of additional housing for the students, will the students also have parking? I know someone else mentioned that parking is tight in the neighborhood. I don't have a car, so it's not a big deal for me. But, you know, students are going to want to get around the city. So just wondering what the plan is for that.
Yeah, we got to think through that. I think, 4250 gives us some of that, but we may have to think a little differently about parking once we decide the density of 44. So I think that's going to be the question of when we design 44, that housing there. How can we think through the housing? A number of schools, though, are going to a model where certain students can bring cars to campus, right? If you're going to be a residential student. And so I'm not saying we would do that, but I think those are all the types of decisions that we'd have to think through as we design with the neighbors when we think about when we eventually do design, what would be the density of 44.
Sure, that's helpful.
The next question is from Kendra Williams. Kendra, if you'd like to ask your question.
Hi, I was just wondering with the plans that are going along with the residential housing, will we also have meal plans as well?
Yeah, these are all the questions we absolutely. So let me say, I think that'll be part and parcel, but we're trying to think through ideas of meal plans prior to having housing. And that's a little bit of a trick. We haven't figured out how to make that trick work yet. But yeah, definitely once we have housing, but even before we have housing, how do we do some type of meal plan? I think is the question we're trying to ask right now.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you for the question.
All right. Does anyone else have any questions? Remember, you don't have to type the whole question. Just type Q and I'll call on you.
Two.
I have one more question. Sorry.
Go ahead.
Sorry, this is Alex Oppo again. I might have missed it, but is there any plans to make any reservations to the sports complex? And is the sports complex available, or will it be available to the community for use?
Yeah, you did. I'm sorry. I apologize. So I'll just real quick, but I'm going to take you into more detail. So the tennis courts, we're renovating those right now, and those will be available to the community. The green space, that's, when I say below 47, that those green, kind of the green space there where we have what I call the upper athletic field and the lower athletic field where the current Eaton trailers are, those to curb, we'll clean those up. We definitely will be working with the community to have time that the community could use those spaces when our students or our student athletes aren't using those spaces. And the same goes for the gym. And you currently right now, COVID being what it is, I know many of you, I'm a swimmer, so I see some of you in the pool using the pool complex. So absolutely. Thank you for the question.
Commissioner Keeble.
Is there any possibility that we could get a copy of the presentation, a PDF of it, or at least the plan?
Yeah, I think Juanita has it. So well, I'm gonna defer to GC Russell. I'm okay with this. I'm pretty sure because I know the plan in a couple of months, we're going to actually present the actual plan, which will be the official documents that we have to submit to the zoning. We will be coming back to you to show you those, and that will have other information in it. That's going to show you this the landscaping plan. It's going to show you some of the mobility things that we're thinking through in terms of parking and that some people asked about and how people are going to move around the campus. So that will be the plan that we'll be showing you in a couple of months. I don't think we have a definite date yet on when that's going to happen. Juanita will schedule that. but
Okay.
that is coming in the fall. But
Okay, is there, yeah, but in the meantime, Troy, if we could just get a copy, a PDF of the plan itself with all the notes on it, that would go a long way just to keep people up to date about what's going on.
I have no problem with that. I'll need to send that out. I have no problem with that.
Okay, great. Thank you so much. I really appreciate it. And thanks for doing this. This is great.
No, look, folks, thank you for the question. Look, if you don't know, let me actually do something personal. If you have not heard, at the end of this month, I will be leaving as the CEO of the university. David Franklin, who is my deputy, I think he's on tonight, is going to be taking on. He's going to be taking on this, and I'm excited for him. But let me say this: I'm excited for what this is going to become. I really am, and I mean that sincerely. This is I've been here for 5 years with the president, and I've appreciated all the conversations. I know they haven't always been fun, but they've always been supportive, and I've always felt that all of you have wanted us to be a better university, and I think we're going to show you that we can do that and be a great neighbor at the same time. And we're going to activate this Connecticut Avenue. I'm excited about seeing that happening over the years to come.
Brenda Brown, if you can unmute yourself.
Okay, I'm interested in the number of students being considered for the Van Ness campus and the number of faculty considered in terms of the office space and whether it's individual offices.
Yeah, we haven't done all the design yet, Brenda, so I can't. All we've done is kind of done a count of what we could do, offices and how many offices and cubicles and the like. And so we haven't laid it out 100%. We just kind of did a count and said, this might could work. And so there's some design work that has to go into it. But we feel say again? But the preliminary work that we've done, and the reason we think this can work, in particular with 3242, the labs, there's already, as you know, a number of labs in the 3242 complex. And so there's a hood and ventilation system. And those are very expensive. And so to build those anywhere else, and so when we can improve on those and actually be able to build some stackable and these new type of flex labs that allow us to have multiple types of offerings in a lab space or even in a classroom space. So again, we still got a lot of design work to do. And so, but as part of the campus master plan is to show where we'd like to be over the next 10 years. And so there's still planning that has to be done, but this is meant to show the neighbors and the district how we plan on thinking through what the function of a building could look like over these next 10 years.
But the question is about what number of students and how many faculty are you planning for in the future?
I have to defer because that's going to be part of the planning question that the consultants are working through. I don't know if we've landed on that 100% on that question yet. Honestly, I'm not trying to avoid it. I don't think we're still doing this work to then think about what that number could look like, and that'll be a conversation we can come back to the community around.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, Commissioner Castillo. His question was just if we can have the plan put on the website.
Yep, we need all. I think when you already have this document, we did that ops forum. It's in that thing, but if you don't, let me know, and then you can get it where you need to put it.
Okay.
Yeah. Thanks.
Peter Winkler, you can unmute yourself.
It's actually Barbara, his spouse. And my question is, do you think there's a possibility that there could be any affordable housing units included on the Van Ness campus at some point in the future?
I think so. I think we will actually, to your question, we actually want the definition of affordable housing to include our students, right, and our junior faculty. And so when the district is talking about building affordable housing, that it includes our population. I think the other thing that, we're trying to think a little differently, because sometimes our students don't want to, don't have the capacity or the money to sign the traditional semester long contract. Sometimes they just need a place for a couple of nights or for a couple of weeks. And you got to remember, we also have workforce programs. And I think in the future, you're going to have more and more, not just our workforce programs, but other academic programs that don't go the traditional semester length, that might go shorter than a traditional semester length, as we think through what a new type of urban university needs to look like to support the workforce needs of the district. And so I think we're thinking, that's why we want a different economic structure for this potential, because we want to think differently about how our students might use the housing that we would offer. But absolutely, I think the definition of how the district defines affordable housing should and needs to include our students.
Tracy J.
I just wanted to again ask that your presentation and the recording be posted on the UDC site. It's been
Sure.
really interesting and informational, but I missed the first 20 minutes.
No problem.
Yeah, and I just wanted to compliment you on your presentation and really just appreciate all the work you've done for UDC and for the community during your tenure. You'll be missed.
Thank you for that. I appreciate that.
Looks like we don't have any more questions.
Okay. So again, thank you all. Put myself back up here. Again, I just want to thank this community. Thank you all for your support of the university. Continue that support of the university. You're going to see, I think, give us, I'm asking, as I've been asking for the last 5 years, for your patience. But your patience so far, I've appreciated, but I continue to ask for it. I think you will see an activation of the retail along Connecticut Avenue. And it's going to be something that the community will be very proud of. And they're also going to be very proud of the campus that we're creating over these next several years. So thank you all. I don't have anything else. GC Russell, anything you want to say, or Juanita, or any of my UDC colleagues that want to speak? Now's the time. The silence is deafening.
I would like to ask if anyone does have any ideas for the amphitheater, please email me. It's juanita.gray@udc.edu, and Juanita is JUANITA. And also, if you did not register, please register, because we do want to continue to email everyone and keep you up to date with things. So if you haven't registered, that's a way for us to keep track of who actually attended this session tonight. Absolutely.
All right. Thank you all. Please be safe and sane out there. Bye now.
Bye.